Hello and good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. We hope everyone is well and staying safe. Today is Tuesday, July the 28th, and this is Medicaid Change is Coming. This is a live webinar designed exclusively for our Peace of Mind clients. My name is Ashley, Client Services Coordinator, and I have the privilege of introducing our presenter, Deanna Ebley. Deanna is a partner with Russo Law Group and has nearly 20 years of planning experience. She's the lead planner in 2 of our office locations, including Garden City and Manhattan. She's also an active member of several bar associations and currently appointed to the executive committee of the New York State Bar Association. I would like to mention that we are available to answer your questions, so please send them to us by way of the questions box provided in the Zoom platform, and we will address them at the conclusion of our program. All right, with that, I will hand it over to Deanna.
Thank you, Ashley. I hope that everybody is safe and doing well and has figured out creative ways to see and spend a little time with some family. I'm really truly missing seeing all of you because I know that this would have been the time that we would have done our luncheons in Suffolk and in Nassau. We would have been in a restaurant having something good to eat and hearing about this presentation. So I'm excited that you're all interested in and that you want to know what changes you have to be concerned about. But I wish it would be in person. I'm truly missing spending time with you and seeing you. And I know that I've made a number of calls to a number of you just to check in and say hi and how are you doing. And if I didn't reach somebody or if somebody hasn't called you in the last few months to do that and you just need someone to talk to and you want to just say hi, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're all here. We're all available. The office is open, so we are not fully staffed as in everybody's back in the office and running, but the office itself is both Islandia, Lido Beach, and Garden City are fully staffed in the sense that every single day there's somebody in the office and available to help you. So by all means, don't hesitate to give us a call. You have questions, you have things you want to review. We are doing virtual meetings. If you're still uncomfortable coming out of the house to review your documents, and after you hear this presentation, if you decide that you want to just review everything, we can do a virtual meeting. We could do a telephone call, and we are seeing clients. We are practicing safe distancing. So I know I'm in the Garden City office quite a bit. And we are we spray down the room after everybody leaves every single time. We spray it down with Lysol, we wipe it down. We are trying to make sure that depending on the number of people you have with you, we are taking up a room bigger than what you need so that we can all sit at a safe distance apart. And we're certainly enforcing mask use in the office. So I encourage you, if you want to get out and come in and review your plan, we are doing those kinds of meetings and we would love to see you in person. Okay, but you didn't want to hear about how things are going with me. You want to hear about what's really going on in the world out there. So I don't know how many of you have heard and have been on Facebook Live meetings with Vincent, and many of us have been doing seminars and webinars on our Facebook Live. But when the budget bill was passed in April, it had with it some major changes to the Medicaid world. Those changes are in the form of home care services. So as many of you are aware, Medicaid has a few components. The most common that we deal with are when somebody is in a nursing home and they aren't able to come home. There are services that are provided in the nursing home that if you qualify, Medicaid will pay for those services. There's also a component to Medicaid that is a home care component. Somebody wants to stay in their home. They have the ability to stay in their home, but they don't have the financial means to necessarily cover all the care that they need in their home. Medicaid also has a component that will pay for somebody to come into your home and provide care for you. That coverage is being drastically revamped at the end of this year. And so this is a conversation to discuss what's staying the same and what's changing and what you can do still now before the changes happen. So we're going to look at the Medicaid look-back period for home care, Medicaid transfer penalty rules, and we're also going to, for home care, and we're also going to talk about pooled income trusts. Okay, hold on a second. So what's staying the same? Because some things are staying the same, although you're going to be disappointed to know that it's not as much as you want to stay the same. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so Medicaid income allowance. So if anybody who's familiar with Medicaid, and there are criteria in order to qualify for the services. They have an income allowance, which is the maximum amount of income that you are allowed in order to qualify for this service. And they also have an asset allowance, which is the maximum amount of assets that you can have in your name in order to qualify for this service. And so in the home care world, I'm not going to bog you down with the nursing home rules because those aren't changing. But in the home care world, somebody who this year is looking for home care, they can have up to $895 a month plus the cost of a supplemental insurance premium. So that's like your AARP, your GHI, your Blue Cross Blue Shield. You know, I know a lot of people on AARP pay between $270 and $300 a month. So they could have that $300 plus the $895. Anything over that, we'll talk later, goes into a pooled income trust. But that's the guideline that Medicaid sets for income in a home care world. When it comes to assets, it's $15,750. That hasn't changed. And your house is exempt up to $893,000, which just means that if your house has equity, the equity value is exempt up to $893,000. Okay, those things haven't changed. The only time they, when they'll change, like every year when the cost of living increase happens with Social Security, those numbers deviate slightly. But you could rest assured that that's still the same as of right now. Okay. One of the things that you'll see is a big change is that under the current Medicaid home care rules, there is no penalty for transfers. And I'll explain what that means in a minute, but essentially, if you had money in your name today, you could transfer it out of your name by July 31st and would be technically eligible for Medicaid home care starting August 1st. It does not mean you would have services in place August 1st. It just means that when they do their evaluation and determine whether or not you are eligible, if you had expenses that go back to August 1st, they will cover those expenses if they feel you are eligible and the criteria, and you meet the criteria for reimbursement. There's also not a look back. So technically, if you wanted services to start August 1st, you can give them your bank statements for August. They'll look at your bank statements to see if you're below the $15,750 that I just explained. And if you are, and everything else, all the other boxes check off, you're technically eligible and they'll approve your application. There's no reason to give other documentation. However, in our office, we've always given 3 months of documentation because if they're going to retroactively cover, if you qualify, we like for you to have that benefit. Okay, so we give the 3 months, but it's not required. A tip for filing for Medicaid home care before the rules change, because you're going to see in the next couple of slides, if you need the services, now's the time to get them, because the amount of work involved to get them after October 1st is going to be drastically different. Okay, so let me give you a scenario so that you can see how this plays out and see the difference in how it looks. So Anna is a widow. She's 85. She lives alone. She was recently diagnosed with mild to moderate dementia, and she doesn't have any long-term care. insurance to cover her home care expenses. She has 2 children. She lives in Nassau County with a house worth $500,000, so we know she's under that $893,000 equity threshold. And she also has liquid assets that total $250,000, but of that $250,000, $100,000 is an IRA. And she gets her Social Security and her pension that you see combined are over the $895 monthly allowance. So what would we do today to plan for her and to get her eligible for Medicaid? Well, she would transfer the house. So we see here that she had a house that was worth $500,000. She was below the limit and we were okay with the amount, but we still want her to transfer the house because we don't want it to be that the house stays in her name and then she passes, because then it's an asset of hers that Medicaid may have a claim against on her passing. So we don't want them to have any right to anything. We transfer the house and we don't worry about it. Okay? We transfer the cash that exceeds $15,750 to the children in this case. Well, when I say the cash, if you note, I have that she has liquid assets of $250,000, but $100,000 is IRA money. So in this scenario, we only want to transfer from the $150,000 that's technically cash, and we only want to transfer what is more than $15,750 because she can have the $15,750 and still qualify. Okay, so what happens with this $100,000 IRA? Well, the $100,000 IRA, as long as it's a traditional IRA that was pre-taxed monies and you only have to pay taxes as the withdrawals are made. So the IRS mandates that you take a required minimum distribution every year. I know that this year they've waived that, but if you're going on Medicaid, it's not an IRS world, it's the Medicaid world. So you would need to take that distribution, okay? So Medicaid also, because it's a Medicaid world, not an IRS world, has rules for what they want you to take. Medicaid is a payer of last resort. So the IRS says to take a minimum distribution. Because Medicaid is the payer of last resort, they say, I want you to take a maximum amount out of that account so that you take that money out, and that means in theory there's less for me to contribute. Okay, that's income. So that IRA doesn't count in your asset column, it counts in your income column, because once you start taking the distribution under Medicaid's guidelines, it's an income source and therefore they can't count the principal. So the principal, if you were to pass and there was money left in that IRA and there's beneficiaries on it, that goes to your beneficiaries. So that principal would get added to the $1,750 and the $750 of Social Security and pension, lump it together. That's the income that we then have to manage down the road in our pooled trust scenario. Okay, that's the current law. That's, if you come into me today and you have something similar to this, that's the kind of scenario that we're going to present to you, assuming there are no other exceptions that that you would meet or any criteria that you would be subject to. Okay, that's a simplified world of what it looks like today. And then we move to what is October 1st going to bring. So the new Medicaid home care rules are coming. The rules are a 30-month look back period. So remember, I started by telling you that it used to be you didn't have a look back and we did 3 months. Look back is how many months worth of financial documentation do I have to provide for Medicaid to do an audit of and determine whether or not I'm financially eligible. So what is coming is, as of October 1st, they're going to start imposing this 30-month look back. It doesn't mean they're going to start 30 months right out of the starting gate, but they are going to at some point transition to 30 months. There is a transfer penalty for non-exempt assets. So let's say that in my scenario with Barbara and Mary Beth, Barbara is just your average child. There's nothing wrong with her. She's, she worked, she's out on, she's retired now. And Anna wants to give Barbara those, the money. In the current law, the transfer from Anna to Barbara doesn't have any penalties imposed. It's a home care setting. You're fine. In the new law that's coming October 1st, the transfer of, for example, that $150,000 worth of cash that Anna had, that transfer going to Barbara will create a penalty in the home care world. So what do I mean by a penalty? Okay. I'll get to it in the next slide. Hold on. The start date is October 1st. The look back is that it's a 30-month look back that they are going to start asking for the documentation January 1st of 2021. So you apply in January, they're going to want documentation back to October. And every month after January, they are going to add 1 month worth of documentation required until April 1st of 2023, when it will be the full 30 months. So you apply October 1st, you're not giving 30 months worth of documents. But if you apply October 1st, there's the possibility of it being subject to penalty. They're saying right now that anything that's transferred before September 30th is exempt because it was under old law. So let's say you file in November, but you transferred assets in October. They're going to look to see what assets you transferred, and depending on the county that you're in, they may start imposing the penalties for the transfers. And I'm going to, on the next slide, explain the penalties, okay? In order for you to qualify for the services, you have to prove that you need community-based long-term care services. So not only do you have to be financially eligible, you also have to have a doctor verifying that you need those services. Why? Because there's going to be a transfer penalty. The transfer penalty is basically Medicaid saying, you had money in your name, you gave it, in this example, Anna gave it to Barbara. When Anna gave Barbara the money, she took money that she could have spent on her care, gave it to somebody who doesn't meet any exception under the laws. And because of that transfer, Medicaid is saying, we refuse to pay for care because you could have paid for it, okay? So when is the start date for the penalty? The transfer penalty will start in the month of the Medicaid application or when a request is made for an increase in coverage. That means either when you apply for Medicaid, they're going to start the penalty, or for somebody who's currently getting Medicaid, if you're asking for more hours, like you have 12 hours and you feel like you need, or you have 8 hours, you need 12, you have 12, you think you may need 24, they are going to start asking for a verification of transfers, and they're going to start looking to see if there's penalties to impose. What formula are they going to use? So I'm telling you that Anna gave $150,000 to Barbara. Well, how many months does that equate to? They are going to use the numbers that they use to do penalties in the nursing home world. What does that mean to you? Every year or generally every year, those numbers change. In Nassau and Suffolk County in 2020, the number is $13,407. It just means that for every $13,407 that Anna took out of her name and gave to Barbara, that's 1 month that Medicaid is not going to cover her home care services, okay? I imagine you're all shaking your heads yes, because I can't see you. Okay, so now taking the new law with the same scenario, we still have Anna, who's still 85. She still lives alone and has mild to moderate dementia and no long-term care insurance. She still has the same 2 children and a house worth $500,000 with cash, as we discussed. What happens? Because if on October 1st, they come into my office and say, I need to get home care services, Barbara comes in and says, I need to get home care service for Anna, we're not recommending the same things right off the bat that we were recommending, okay? We want to make sure that the IRA is making monthly distributions to meet the criteria that I explained in the old law. We want to make sure the IRA is paying out based on Medicaid's life expectancy tables so that the IRA money is not a concern, okay? We will then have to come up with a plan that includes a gift, and you're shaking your head saying, but she just told me that a gift is going to create a penalty, and it will. So we have to do a calculation where we say, okay, we have X number of dollars here. And with those dollars, we're going to make a gift of X dollars. And that gift of X is going to create a penalty. And then we're going to loan Barbara Y dollars. Okay. The loan is not going to create a penalty. Why? Why wouldn't that create a penalty? Because there's a promise to pay back. So it's not a gift. It's a loan. Just think like your car loan. You're borrowing money from, Barbara's borrowing money from Anna and expected to give it back with interest. So what happens is in that calculation, we set aside the gift money. We use the money plus her income from the loan to pay for her private care in the home, so that they're paying for private medical care in the home. And then once in this calculation, once the loan is all paid in full, the gifted monies in almost their entirety are protected. Okay? Medicaid will start paying when the loan is paid off. And that is ultimately what's going to have to happen, is that we're going to have to start doing plans where we're splitting the assets into two different pots. And in those two different pots, one we're hoping to protect and the other we know we're going to be using to spend on the cost of care. I just want to pause for 1 second. Ashley, do I have any questions? Because I know that was complicated and I apologize. I closed my chat box.
No, Deanna, not at the moment. I'm
Okay.
sure they're coming though.
Okay. All right. All right. So then the question I then raised was, okay, but Anna also had income that was more than the $895 that I explained she should have. So she had income that was, with her IRA, she probably had about let's say about $3,000 worth of income. Let's make the math easy for me. $2,995. So we know, or $2,895. So we know that she has more than $2,000 more than what she's allowed under Medicaid's rules. But that doesn't mean she can't get Medicaid in the home, okay? She can get Medicaid in the home, but she has two options. If you could see me, I was holding up two fingers because I'm a very visual person. So she has the ability to either, one, take that excess $2,000, give it to Medicaid, say, here you go, I'm going to contribute $2,000 toward the cost of my care. And then when that $2,000 is all used up, you kick Medicaid, you start paying for me. And Medicaid has no problem with that. I have a problem with that. That's a lot of money to be given to Medicaid because my guess is Anna, because she's at home and she lives alone, has tremendous expenses at home. She lives in Nassau County. The real estate taxes alone are through the roof. So she likely can't just hand over $2,000 to Medicaid and say, here, take this and spend it, and then you start paying. She needs every penny that she has. So the way to deal with the income aspect of things is to establish something called a pooled income trust, okay? The pooled income trust, I see that there's a question. So the money that goes into the trust can pay any bill in Anna's name. Yes, the money could pay any bill in Anna's name. It's got to be for Anna's benefit. Okay? I hope that answered your question, Beth. So to establish a pooled income trust, you have to be disabled, and you have to the trust is established with, I'm sorry, the chat box threw me off a little bit. You have to be, but I encourage you to keep sending your questions. You have to be disabled, and you have to establish it with a charity. It is a very specific type of trust that is with a charity that has this trust already approved by the state. So the Teresa Foundation, most of you are very familiar with the Teresa Foundation. They are one of about 20 charities that have these types of trusts. There are multiple types of trusts out there for pooled trusts. There's income and asset types. The biggest concern that we have right now, and unfortunately, I don't have an answer of how they're going to view this, is that at the current moment, in the current law, you can establish a pooled income trust, put that income into the pooled income trust, and submit mom's or Anna's bills in this case to the pooled income trust company. They will pay her bills up to the amount you put in. So if she put in $2,000 and we submit bills of $1,500, they'll pay up to $1,500 and hold the other $500 for next month. Maybe she has another bill coming. If you put in $2,000 and you submit bills for $2,500, they'll pay $2,000 of those bills, okay? The concern that's out there with the change of the law is that there's the possibility that Medicaid is going to impose a transfer penalty on pooled income trusts. And there's not clarity yet how they're going to do that. I'll give you a little insight. But anyone under the age of 65 will not have a transfer penalty if they put assets or income in there. It's individuals who are over the age of 65 that this may apply. There's a lot of advocacy efforts out there, and we're trying to get clarity on that. There's conversations about maybe as long as the money is spent down every month, aren't going to be any issues. But then the question becomes, what happens if they carry over money? Like if they're using it for real estate taxes and you only have taxes quarterly, you put the money in monthly and you wait quarterly. So there's a lot of advocacy going on over this issue, because we certainly don't want to see our seniors in particular have this avenue cut down, stopped on them, because then it makes it nearly impossible, especially on Long Island, to be able to live at home and get care at home. So we will keep you updated on where the efforts go to clarify this. It's not that there is an answer and we're just trying to tweak it. They're very vague on how how this piece fits into the new law. And that's why there's not a clear guideline for it. Hold on one second. Okay, so that's a lot of information. Now, what do you do with all of that information? So you should implement Medicaid planning now, because I mentioned in the very beginning that transfers that happen before September 30th are not going to be subject to the penalties after the October 1st start date. They're phasing things in on purpose. They're phasing them in on purpose because they know that transfers that happen before September 30th are exempt from the new law. So if I know that you guys are peace of mind clients. Oh, I have another question. Let me finish that thought. I know that you are peace of mind clients. I just want you to be aware that if you've done some of your planning, but not all of your planning, this is a great time to reassess and see if there's something else you need to do. I also want you to understand that you're listening to this conversation with the mindset that if you know of other people who may be in a situation where they could possibly need care, now is the time to encourage them to come in, because you can still get stuff done. You don't want to be in a position where September 1st, you're under the gun trying to get things transferred and everything starts October 1st. So transfers that happen in September could affect the eligibility in October. You want to make sure that an application is filed in September and all the transfers are made in August, okay, if they need care right now. So Robert, my mother is already receiving home care. Will this affect her? It will not affect her unless she needs additional hours. And that was your follow-up question. What if she needs additional hours? So I sit on the executive committee for the Medicaid section. And at the moment, the guidelines are that it doesn't affect people who are already receiving services. But if you request more hours, you want a change in the circumstance, then they are going to be subject to these changes. So if you think she may need more hours, you may want to have her assessed now, so that you can just check to see if she could get those hours before the change happens. Okay. Individuals should file before October 1st, which is what I just said. You definitely want to file that application before the change happens. And you want to monitor updates. You know, we generally try and get you that information as quick as possible. So we do send out a lot of e-blasts, and we make sure that all that information comes to you as soon as we have it. So you definitely want to keep an eye on the emails that you're getting from us. Our website has a lot of information, and be an advocate. So if you know that somebody needs the care, now's the time to encourage them to come and get the help that they need. What if I have long-term care insurance? That's another good question. So long-term care insurance is viewed as an income source. So Medicaid generally calculates the payments from long-term care insurance as income that you would ultimately then put into a pooled income trust. Beth, for the house taxes, can Anna ask for more money to come out of the IRA for the quarterly payments without penalty from Medicaid? So it's not necessarily that it's penalty from Medicaid. Any money that Anna would take out of her IRA is considered income. That income, if pooled trusts are in effect, that income would go into the pooled trust, and then from the pooled trust, she could pay her taxes. Any amount that she's taking out, even if Medicaid says she needs to take out $100 and she wants to take out $300, that $300 is still countable income to her. But if she's got the pooled trust, it could go into the pooled trust to pay that, to pay those taxes. The only caution I give you with letting money accumulate in the pooled income trust is that when money accumulates in the pooled income trust, unfortunately, if the beneficiary of the pooled income trust passes, the money that's in the account that they have created goes to the charity, which is a great benefit to the charity. It's the upside to the charity. The upside to Anna in this case was that she had the full use and enjoyment of her money. But, some people forget, they let the money accumulate, and then their loved one passes. And when that happens, they're in a situation where they think they have access to the funds and they don't. And so I wouldn't want it to accumulate, because remember, she's allowed to have $15,750 in her name that she could use to pay for her real estate taxes and use the money that she puts in every month to pay her other bills. Okay, so you guys are asking great questions. Hold on, I think there's another one coming in. If you don't need Medicaid now or in the foreseeable future, would it be an idea to put all your money in the bank, because then Medicaid, would it be an idea to not put all your money in the bank because then Medicaid won't see it? Okay. I've had this scenario, believe it or not. I never think that it's a good idea to not put your money in the bank. And the reason why is because what some people don't realize is Medicaid does an audit of your assets. So what happens is, if you don't put money in the bank and then all of a sudden you need to pay a bill and you need that money and you make that deposit, you deposit, $1,500 or $3,000 into the bank, and Medicaid gets these big sirens going off wondering, where'd you get that money from? You have money hidden somewhere? What are you not telling us? So I would much rather, if you don't need the services now, you come in and do like a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, or you have discussion about how you should hold the money, you know, those kinds of things. I'd rather you do it in a protective way than to take that money, put it in your mattress, and then have issues later when you actually need it and you have to put it in the bank. So that's my take on that. How are recertifications after October 1st being handled? My understanding again is that anybody who's currently on Medicaid, even with recertifications, this is not a problem. The only time it becomes a problem is if you're asking for more coverage. When you ask for more coverage, like more hours, they're going to ask you for more documentation. It doesn't mean she won't qualify. It just means that you may be subject to these rules. So in a scenario where it was a husband and wife and transfers happened between spouses, even though those transfers happen maybe even in October, it doesn't create a penalty because transfers between a husband and wife are exempt. Okay. I did long-term care. I did that one. If Anna needed a new back deck, including adding a ramp, does the pooled income trust pay for this, or would it be considered housing accommodations under Medicaid? So Beth, so Medicaid doesn't have the same restrictions as SSI for certain things, where the pooled trust is allowed to pay for rent and stuff like that, assuming that Anna is not on SSI. I think the answer to your question will depend on the pooled trust company is probably going to want to ask more questions to see if they're going to want to see more information about the ramp itself and whether or not that's the only means for Anna to get in and out. They're going to ask you those kinds of questions to make sure it's not just to put up a back deck and like have the caveat of the ramp. They're going to want some additional questions answered there before they could just jump in and give the funds for that. Francis, if mom is 83, does not have long-term care insurance, and her income sources and assets are reasonably high, it seems that Medicaid is not really on the horizon. Are there insurance options for home health care or other strategies for aging in place? Unfortunately, Francis, I don't believe that long-term care insurance companies will give insurance at that age. They do have a cutoff. I think even if assets are reasonably high, your best bet is to do additional planning by like doing a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. You transfer the funds she's not using right now into that trust, helping her to down the road be eligible for Medicaid so that her money can stretch further. So that down the road, if you're able to get Medicaid in there with proper planning, Medicaid may not pay for 24/7 care and likely won't pay for 24/7 care. So you get Medicaid to pay for what they're going to pay for, and then you have the funds that she protected available in another way to help supplement that. So even though right now you think that assets are high and income is high, I would still have the conversation about how do we start protecting assets, just so that there's an understanding of cost benefit and whether or not it's, you know, in the big picture, what it looks like. But it's always in her best interest to do some type of protection planning, because home care services could still be $8,000-9,000 or on up, depending on what you need. So it's always in your best interest to plan for the services, because that way her money will stretch further. Okay, so I think I got that one. It costs at least $8.95 for groceries a month. How are you going to pay the remainder of your bills, including your real estate taxes, if that's all you're allowed? You're going to use a pooled income trust. So if you're with the pooled income trust, any assets, any income that you have over the $8.95 goes into the pooled income trust. And I always suggest the easiest thing is to give your utility bills, because some of those utility bills are on a budget, and you could easily just give those bills and they'll pay those bills every month. So $8.95, like in my example with Anna, she had $28.95. $8.95, she had the flexibility to pay on her own, use it for groceries and stuff like that. The other $2,000 she was giving to the trust company, and the trust company, she was giving her utility bills and stuff like that, so that over the month she had the ability to pay her bills and still use all of her money for her. The idea of the trust company is that she's still able to keep her money and use all of her money for her, and that's the biggest upside to using a pooled income trust. Okay, you guys asked great questions. All right, let's see. So to summarize, the new law takes effect October 1st. It will have a look back of 2.5 years for documents, and it's going to be phased in. Like I said, starting in January, they'll start asking for 3 months, then 4 as we go on to 2023. There's going to be penalties imposed on transfers that are made after October 1st. And there's still some questions about the use of the pooled income trust, so you're going to stay tuned on that. And let me see, I saw another question pop up. So the money that goes, I think I answered both of those questions. I'm not sure. Oh, I'll mark them answer live. Okay. So that they don't pop up. All right. I think that.
Deanna, I'm gonna cut in.
Okay.
We had a question come through on the chat box, and I don't think you were able to get that one pulled up. So let me just go ahead and read it out loud.
Okay.
Transfer IRAs if not need care yet. Is an IRA income counted for income for quote unquote daughter after the transfer of IRA to daughter?
Okay, so this is my concern about the IRA transfer. I don't know, I would need a little bit more information about the type of IRA, but if it's a traditional IRA, you don't want it, depending on how much it is. If it is a significant amount, like in my example, it was $100,000. Anna had a $100,000 IRA. That's pretty significant. And the taxes that she would pay on that IRA to transfer it to the daughter, because remember, you can't just change ownership of that type of account. The ownership change is a taxable event. So they're going to tax the whole thing as if she took the whole thing. And once she gets taxed on the whole thing, then it's like transferring a checking or a savings account. So before you start transferring IRAs to children or others, or even spouses, for example, I would double check to see what the tax ramifications are of that. And, depending, I've surrendered IRAs before, but they were not significant IRAs and the tax wasn't that big of an issue. But I wouldn't do anything with an IRA without double checking some of that first. Okay, so for example, 731 paid overage was made to a pooled income trust. Bills can't be paid until 9/1 by the trust. What do you tell the bill collectors about this? You can pay before 9/1. You just have to put in double the money. So if Anna's overage was $2,000 and you just started, in this example with, I'm assuming it's a Teresa trust. If in this example, if her overage was $2,000, they like to have a security deposit of $2,000 because that's her overage. If she puts in $4,000, they will pay the bills for August. What is the current charge of a nursing home and assisted living? I don't know exactly what you're asking, but I'll answer what I think it is. So an assisted living, the general answer is they start out basic room and board probably in the $3,000 to $5,000 range. And then what makes assisted living expensive is they a la carte a lot of the services. So if your loved one needs someone to administer medications, or they need someone to make sure they shower, all the one-on-one type services that they need are a la carte and added to everything. So it becomes expensive. It could be $7,000 to $10,000 easily in an assisted living. Nursing homes, Nursing, I'm kind of glad you guys are all, hopefully sitting when I say this. Nursing homes on Long Island that you would want to be in if you had to be in one, I would say they average between $15,000 and $18,000 a month, assuming you're not on a respirator. If you're on a respirator, it's easily in the 20s. Okay, I have another question. I have talked with my mom about pooled income trust. Mom is balking because she's concerned that the focus or the mission of the charity may change over time. Can assets or income that has been transferred into a pooled income trust be retransferred into another pooled income trust, or is the first transfer irrevocable? You can establish one pooled income trust if you decide that there's something wrong with them. Either they're not paying the bills the way you wanted them to, or their mission has changed. You have to spend the money down that's in there, but you can establish a new pooled income trust with a different company and start working, redirecting the new deposits into those accounts. Not a problem. All right, do we have any other questions?
No, ma'am. I
All
think
right.
we covered them all.
You guys are good. You keep me
Yeah.
on my feet. All right. So, what makes Russo Law Group different? We have 5 convenient office locations. Our offices that are fully staffed when we're completely open are Garden City and Islandia, and Lido Beach also has somebody there every day. So those are the ones that most people come to. I do have an office in the city that I am working out of. Right now with COVID and everything that's going on, we have suspended appointments in that office at the moment, but we will start up again hopefully soon. We are licensed in multiple states, including Florida, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. We also do have a incredible network of attorneys that do this kind of work in other states. So if you're looking for somebody, somebody, a family member who lives in a different state, and you want to make a recommendation for their planning, let us know. State, county, largest city in the area, and we'll get you the name of somebody. Hold on one second. I'm getting on IRAs transferred counts as income for daughter. Well, if it's transferred to the daughter, it's not an income because you liquidated the entire thing. It's like putting it in a savings account now, and the only income that she would be paying is the interest income. That's the only income. It's not like you can just hand over an IRA to a child, unless of course they're inheriting it. And if they're inheriting it, then yes, the income would be to the daughter, but mom or dad wouldn't be here. Beth, you're very welcome. Okay. We can handle crisis. We've been doing this for a very long time. It makes me sound old, but I have been doing this for just shy of 20 years. I reminded Mr. Russo, the managing partner, last year that he hit his 40-year mark. So there's certainly a lot of experience in the office, and we do a lot as a team. So if there's something that we just need to bounce off of our colleagues to say, hey, can you look at this a little differently? This is how I see it, but is there a better way? We have that available, and we often do that. In fact, I was on a call like that right before I came to you guys. We have a client maintenance program like you're familiar with, because we are we're doing something for the POM program right now. And I just want to remind you that we also have a family plan. So I know that some POM members have, one in particular has paid for his daughters to have their documents done under our family plan as a holiday gift. But with COVID and everything that's been going on, I think one of the biggest things that we've seen is people are starting to realize that they don't have their documents in place. They haven't done the right planning. And you don't want to be in a situation where something unforeseen happens and, parents are in a position where they didn't make arrangements for their children, or somebody doesn't have any documents in place, so nobody could act for them, and you're in a guardianship, and the courts are very backed up right now, so it's a mess. So we are highly encouraging you to encourage your children to do their planning, and we sent out an email. I'd be happy to have conversation with anybody who has more questions on it. We do offer a family plan to do documents for them. It's power of attorney, healthcare proxy, living will, last will and testament at a steep discount. I encourage you to take advantage. We do a lot of community work. One of our biggest community outreaches this year because of COVID was we did a frontline worker support where we were doing documents, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, living will, and wills for frontline workers because it was so important. And we heard how so many of them were really dealing with the reality that they were on the front line. They were absolutely exposed to this virus and, oh my goodness, what's going to happen with my family? We do have webinars on a pretty regular basis, especially right now. So Ashley, correct me, I don't have my note in front of me with the actual date, but I do believe it's August 18th is the next Facebook Live New York State Estate Tax Planning webinar.
You are correct, and that
Okay.
is with Vincent Russo. And
Yeah.
I just sent, if you're at your computer, I sent a chat through our little chat box, and if you're interested, go ahead and sign up. There's a registration link there in the chat window.
Okay. And one of the other things that we are doing on Facebook, and you could go back and look at we have Facebook Live webinars that Vincent in particular has been doing since this all started in March. You could go back on our Facebook page and watch the old ones. We also have, because they're still relevant today. I don't want to make it sound like it's old because it's not. We also have daily check-ins where Vincent gives little tips and plays a song. He's a Beatles fan, that many of you know that. And so most of the early ones are some Beatles song, and then he started peppering in other things. So there's a multitude of topics in the daily check-ins. I know most recently I did a daily check-in with Vincent that was discussing this idea of children who are disabled and them being able to collect Social Security disability benefits off of their parents' record and how important that is, and that many people don't know that that exists. So certainly go and watch those videos and ask questions if you have them. I have 2 more questions. If you can tell me more about the family plan for parents of a child, including applying for guardianship for a developmentally disabled, newly turned 18-year-old. Okay, so you should definitely call us to make an appointment. The family plan for the parents, I don't know the number off the top of my head, I apologize. It's about $3,500 to do for both mom and dad, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, living will, last will and testament, have conversations, get all that together. It's steeply discounted. With regard to the guardianship for the developmentally disabled child, before you jump into a guardianship, I would love for you to call me. Even if I'm not your the attorney of record for you, you are welcome to call me because I have questions about that one. I can't answer that without follow-up questions because I would want to ask more questions about the child themselves to see if there's other things that could be done before you get the court involved. And then I have another question. In my scenario with Anna and Barbara and Mary Beth, if Barbara is handicapped, what is the difference? You made a point to mention she is well. My son is on. So in many circumstances where somebody is disabled, the law says that transfers to a disabled child are exempt. And that's why I said she was well. So if Barbara had been on Social Security disability and Anna had transferred the $150,000 to Barbara after October 1st, those transfers are exempt. And that's why I made that distinction. Okay. Wow, you guys really had me on my toes. Oh, I think that was the last slide. Is that all? Are those all the questions, Julie? I mean, Ashley?
That's all the questions.
Oh,
Nice
wait.
job getting to all of
Exempt
them.
even to his trust. So it depends on the type of trust that he has. But So I would need to see the trust to answer that question, but if it is the right type of trust, then I would say yes. But I certainly need to see the trust before I can, you know, carve that in stone. All right. You're welcome to email me with any questions, follow-up questions that you have. You know, we're available. You can make appointments. Don't forget, you will have the opportunity to come in and have a yearly meeting with your lead planner at no cost to you. So if this triggers thoughts of, oh, I have more questions, you can have that meeting either in person or virtually. So don't hesitate, just give a call. You know, a lot of you schedule those appointments with Mary. Sometimes you schedule them with Ashley. Just call and you know, let them know that you want to have that meeting, and we'd be happy to see you. All right. Everybody stay safe. Try and get some sunlight and vitamin D, but don't stand outside too long today, because I went out for a brief second and it is hot out there. And I think that's it. Thank you so very much.